reports that the House has advanced legislation today to send aid to both Ukraine as well as other embattled U.S. allies overseas, clearing a key procedural hurdle after Democrats stepped in to back the measure, a rare move by the minority party, but one that was crucial to nudge the package forward in the face of fierce conservative opposition. The chamber approving the foreign aid rule in a 316 to 94 vote, meaning debate now begins. The bill's expected to be passed tomorrow. For more on this, let's bring in a congressman who voted against advancing all of this. Congressman Andrew Clyde is here. He represents Georgia's 9th Congressional District. He's a member of the House Appropriations Committee and the Freedom Caucus as well. Sir, good to have you back with us. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Vince. Always great to be with you, sir.
Tell me, just give me the state of play here, the latest of what's happening in Congress today.
Well, this morning we voted a procedural vote on the rule, which would have brought the bill to the floor. And as what we saw last night, where in the Rules Committee, 3 Democrats voted with Republicans in order to advance the rule because 3 Republicans, conservative Republicans, voted against the rule. This particular bill is a terrible bill. We are giving up our leverage when it comes to the border, the leverage that we would have had on the Ukraine aid, as in, Biden wants Ukraine, Senate wants Ukraine, and we want border security here in the House. And so in order to get true border security, which would be H.R. 2 or something very close to it, you need to pair that with Ukraine aid. And today this rule officially divorced the two. And you now no longer have any leverage to pass border security, but yet you have now this foreign aid package to secure foreign countries' borders with no policy to secure our border, showing that the Speaker of the House is more concerned about securing foreign countries' borders than he is concerned about securing the border of the United States. And without border security, we have no national security here in the U.S. So this was absolutely wrong. You had more Democrats vote for this bill, the rule bill on the House floor, 165 of them, than Republicans, only 151, because 55 of us voted against this rule. It is a bad rule. It is an America Last bill.
Speaker Mike Johnson sounded a little different a couple months ago. He kept saying in public that we have to have American border security first before we send out any more foreign aid. Obviously, that tune has changed. He's been making the rounds. He's done a series of interviews in the last 24 hours, including with my colleagues, Mark Levin and Dan Bongino. And his point is that his hands are tied. His margins are too small. And there's just no way that he would be able to get a border security bill through that's tied to foreign aid. Do you think that's right, or is something else changed?
No, I disagree with that because, we have always said the border is the hill to die on. Okay, well, fight for it. Fight for it. Let's show that we actually believe that border security is the number one issue in this country. And what we have seen is, no, obviously, I guess it's Ukraine aid is the number one issue in this country, not our border security. So, I'm fine with giving no Ukraine aid if they don't get us border security. But obviously, the Speaker is not there. He was there. I don't know why he flip-flopped, but it's, not having border security is allowing over 100,000 Americans to die every year from drug overdoses, the vast majority of them from synthetic opioids like fentanyl. I mean, we have got to shut down our southern border. And then you've got the massive immigration that's coming in of illegals who, I believe, one of the reasons that the Biden administration is so pro-illegal immigrant here is they want them to be able to register to vote and to vote in this next election and vote for Biden. I mean, they're going to try that. That's what they're going to try and fraudulently steal our election. And this has got to stop. And putting forth this foreign aid bill shows that they do not believe that our border is the number one priority, and that's wrong.
One of the things that we've heard from Speaker Johnson multiple times over the last week is the reason that he's shifted in a number of these positions is that he goes into classified briefings and he comes out, he says, with a better understanding of why the status quo needs to continue. So in the case of the FISA warrantless surveillance of Americans, he said he used to be concerned about the abuses, but now he believes that that power needs to stay because he went into a skiff, he got the briefing, and he thinks it's important. He said the same thing about Ukraine funding and why he's prioritizing this foreign aid at the expense of border security here. His holding is that, well, I get the briefing, and he's encouraging members like yourself, Congressman Clyde, go get the briefing. And once you get the briefing, you're going to know why we need to give $60 billion to Ukraine. Do you buy that?
So once we get the briefing, I'll know what I need to give up our Fourth Amendment rights in order for, some temporary security or some, no, absolutely not. I raised my hand to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I'm sorry, but the Fourth Amendment is part of that Constitution. I don't care what they show me in the skiff. The Fourth Amendment is a constitutional right, and we shall fight for that right. I will never give up that right, and neither should the Speaker, under any circumstances. So, this is wrong. To be ruled by fear is not a way to live. And, the intelligence community can tell you all sorts of things. And you really have to know that, in my opinion, when they're lying because their lips are moving. I do not trust the intelligence community one little bit. I mean, you looked at the Hunter Biden issue when you had 51 intelligence community experts sign the letter and they were all lying.
Yes. And so this has been one of the most troubling features of his remarks this past week, Speaker Johnson's, that is, because he keeps saying, well, once the intel community tells me what's up, this is how I've arrived at this conclusion. I'm sitting here going, well, wait a second. Conservatives broadly have known for a couple of years now, at least, that the intel community has been actively manipulating the politics of the United States and deceiving Americans. Why would you reflexively believe them?
That's a great point, and that's exactly where we are. Why are we believing this? They're simply going to manipulate the information in order to push Congress in the direction that they want them to go, and that is to give more power to them and to take away the rights of American citizens. And you see that on an open border. You see that on the Fourth Amendment issue. And if they're going to do that on the Fourth Amendment issue, what about the Second Amendment issue and the First Amendment issue? I'm sorry. We have to defend our rights, our constitutionally God-given rights.
Congressman Clyde, when they try and convince you that you should vote for all of this, do they ever tell you, that the war in Ukraine is going to come to an end, or how this latest tranche of money is going to help that happen? Are there explanations like that given to members of Congress?
No, there is no plan. But I'll tell you what, when you look at the bill, you see $300 million for the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine. You see, $7.8 billion for Ukrainian budget support. You see $60 billion is being sold to us as a loan, but it's all smoke and mirrors. I mean, the president is allowed to waive up to 50% of it after November of 2024, and then the other 50% of it after January of 2026. I'm sorry, but, this whole package is bad. If you look at the Israel bill, and I've read every word of this Israel bill, you've got $400 million, all right, in the bill for FEMA, United States FEMA, to give security grants to nonprofit agencies. You've got $9.15 billion going for disaster relief and immigrant recovery programs in Gaza. That money will go to Hamas. There is no way you are going to feed the people in Gaza and not feed Hamas. And when you feed Hamas, then guess what? All the money that they would normally have to spend to feed themselves can go into weapons and ammunition production. So they can do another October 7th against Israel. No, it makes no sense to fund both Israel and Hamas in the Israel supplemental.
Yeah, I looked at the numbers once on Israel through the years. The United States, of course, has supported Israel for many decades now. And it turns out we've given just as much, if not more, to Ukraine now than we have in the entire partnership we've ever had with Israel. And in just since the February invasion by Russia into Ukraine. That's how much money we've sent to Ukraine. And it seems that all of this legislation is designed to exploit Israel and the wide support for Israel in order to keep giving way more money to Ukraine. Why is that? Why can't these things even be considered on an individual basis? If we're losing the leverage for the border, why can't we just have individual bills instead of all of this packaged together?
Well, the reason they're splitting them up is they're using different coalitions then to pass each of the bills, and so that none of them will suffer defeat, and so that all of them then can be combined together and then passed over to the Senate. This is basically the $95 billion Senate bill brought over to the House, split up, voted on individually, so every particular individual section will pass, put back together and sent back to the Senate, so the Senate will vote on it, approve it, and send it to the White House. It's disingenuous. In fact, it's downright deceitful, the way that this has been done. I'm very, very disappointed in our Republican leadership, and this is, again, as I keep saying, an America last foreign aid bill.
It's so disheartening. Okay, so what's the future for Speaker Johnson as you assess it now? He's got, Republicans have a one-vote majority. There are some Republicans who have now signed on, a couple of them, to a would-be motion to vacate against him. Is he long for this job? Because my sense is that there's a lot of chaos going on between you and your colleagues right now.
Well, there's actually 3 that have signed on, officially signed on, to the motion to vacate for Speaker Johnson. Yeah, I don't know that I'm just there yet because, we need to have a Speaker of the House if we're going to keep the House functioning. But I'll tell you what, I wish we had the Mike Johnson of 2023. I don't know this Mike Johnson, and it's really, really disheartening. I'll tell you what, I don't think he's going to be, Speaker in 2025. That's for sure.
Matt Gaetz said that because the margins are so close, he's worried that you could just get 3 Republicans to be bribed to vote for a Democrat Speaker of the House. So that's why he's saying at this moment he's opposing a motion to vacate.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting thought, that's for sure. We certainly don't want a Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker. Under no circumstances do we want that. So I'm not quite there yet with Mike Johnson, with Speaker Johnson, but I'm just, I pray for him and just looking for guidance from above as to how we handle these situations. Because you're right, we are in a mess right now, and it's but we still have the majority. We could be united if we wanted to, if we had some conservative bills here that would move the conservative priorities of our people forward. We would be united, and it's really, really disappointing that we're not.
Finally, Congressman Clyde, I know this is a tough moment, but do you think these fights are worth having quite so publicly? Because maybe the future will hold something better if lawmakers are convinced that the voters are going to pay such close attention.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's always worth the fight when you're fighting the right thing or for the right thing. All right. When you absolutely determine that this is the way that we need to go because it's the right thing to do, then the fight is worth it regardless of the cost.
Congressman Andrew Clyde, thank you very much for your time today, sir. Really appreciate you as always. Thank you for stopping by.